Every time we've created actions so far in the course, they trigger and perform instantly when we interact with the object they're set on. Now, brings up the question, what happens if you don't want that action to perform straight away? Maybe you want that action in question to perform, let's say 5 seconds after your users have interacted with an object. And this comes down to creating delayed actions. And it's a very simple process on how to create them. So far we've talked a lot about NS timers and how we can get them to repeat stuff over and over again to perform the same action within a certain time to which we set it, whether that be 1 second. And how we perform them is setting our selector to trigger a void statement over and over. We're going to be taking those selectors and instead of repeating them over and over again, just repeat it once at a certain delay of, let's say, 5 to 10 seconds, depending on whatever we want to select. So how we're going to get this and perform this to work is by simply creating a button, which I'm going to simply drag and drop in. Once pressed, it's going to trigger our action. But our action won't perform until the time we tell it to. So if I simply drag in this button and I simply name it perform my delayed action, it's going to change the text within our label 5 seconds after we've pressed it. So if I space this out and center it, there we go. So I'm going to bring up the assistant editor and make sure we're selected in our viewcontroller.h, which we're going to drag and drop in our label to create an outlet for it by simply calling it a label. And I'll do the same for our button, but this time we change it from outlet to action, and I simply name it perform action delay, nice and easy. And make sure it's an action and we add that in, so there we go. So reasons why you'll have delayed actions. Now, they're basically really commonly used in stuff like games. Like you're playing the game and your user does something and it doesn't trigger a chain of actions until a few seconds later. So maybe they've pressed the button and then they've got 5 seconds for their character to run over. And if they don't make it within the 5 seconds, the door has simply closed. That's how you can perform a delayed action. So it's great for stuff like that. So within our viewcontroller.m, we're simply going to space out the button we just added in to perform our kind of selector to trigger it. So we do bracket, we write out self, space, perform, selector. You need the one with the object and the after delay, which is just selected here. So in the selected here, we're going to do the @ symbol, selector. We're going to leave it blank, like how we do with our NS timers just for now. With object, we're going to do nil. And after the delay is how many seconds until it performs. So we've talked about having it do it within 5 seconds. So we just do 5.0, which is 5 seconds. And now have a bracket and a semicolon. So I'll just close this little bit of code up here and space this out. So what's going to happen after 5 seconds is it's going to trigger this void statement. So I simply name this delay and create our parentheses. So when it triggers this void statement, it's then going to get our self.label and then change the text from within it to simply equal @ symbol, 2 quotation marks and a string. And what we're going to get to equal is this text was simply delayed. Nice and easy there, add it in. And then we need to make sure that within our selector here, we add in the name of that void statement we created, which I simply called it delay. Okay, so to give you another rundown of what's happening, we're going to press our button. It's going to perform this selector, which we've added in the selector as delay, which is this void statement. It's going to trigger it 5 seconds after we've pressed our button. So we hit it, it'll count, in our minds, we'll just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hits 5, and then it'll perform the action that we placed within this void statement. So it won't repeat like our NS timers or anything like that. It's just going to perform it once at a later date. So if you go to build and run and test it out, so once it loads up, we can press our button. Now it doesn't happen instantly. Again, we just got to wait 5 seconds, and when it does, it then displays within our label. This text was delayed. So there we go. That's how you can perform delayed actions within our application. Now again, I said it's brilliant for use in stuff like games where users have to toggle a switch and then they've got 5 seconds to escape the cave. But if they don't escape the cave in 5 seconds, maybe the cave door closes, and that's how you perform actions at a later date. It all depends on what you set it as after the delay. So we got it set at 5.0, which is 5 seconds. If you set it at 5.5, it will be 5.5 seconds. It's entirely up to you how you do it. So again, that's simply how you create delayed actions within your applications. In the next lecture, we move on to creating our 7th app, which is a full-featured calculator application.